You're listening to Sports Connections with David Smale, the show that brings you a fun and intimate look into connections throughout sports. Now here's your host, David Smale.
When you Google search Dave LaRoche, the baseball player, the first thing that comes up is a video for LaLob, a pitch he threw a few times in his career, most famously against Gorman Thomas of the Milwaukee Brewers in 1983. Thomas was a power hitter for the Brewers who feasted on fastballs. Dave's fastball didn't exactly blow hitters away, so he resurrected Rip Sewell's ephus pitch and threw it 3 times to Thomas, practically corkscrewing him into the ground on the third one, striking him out. And that may be what Dave is best known for, but he had a very good career. He had a 14-year major league career with 5 different clubs, mostly as a reliever. He was 65 and 58 with a career 3.53 ERA, mostly in the American League. And he's been a pitching coach for decades, and we'll talk to him a little bit about that. He's also the father of 3 sons, 2 of which had Major League Baseball careers themselves. Adam is the best known of the sons. He played 12 seasons with 6 different teams, compiling an impressive .260 average with a 162 game average of 26 home runs and 89 RBIs. So produces good stock. Dave, welcome to Sports Connections.
Well, thank you, Dave. It's nice to be here with you. It's good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been. It has been. I want to start with LaLob. Obviously, that's what you're probably best known for. That's probably not fair because you had a good career, but that's what us old folks that remember those days, that's what we think of first. And for those watching the video, we'll have a link to a YouTube video of that. If you're just listening to the audio, just Google it and it'll come up pretty quickly. So just talk about how you came up with the idea of adding that pitch to your arsenal.
Well, I'll start off by explaining a little bit why I'm best known for that. I did find out that when you play in New York, everything is magnified. Yeah. I mean, it's, tenfold or more.
Yeah.
And that was my last game with the Angels in 1980. I threw a couple, 5 or 6 of them in again. I came in the second inning in long relief and pitched 5 or 6 innings, whatever. And I threw 7 or 8 of them, got several outs, gave up 1 hit. And nobody said a word in Anaheim. Then when I went to the Yankees and I started using it in, if I'd come in middle relief or if we were losing, I would use it. It was working and, it got, so, it was successful. So I
Sure.
used it quite a bit. But the beginning, it went back about 5 or 6 years in the bullpen. I was always, you'd have to get up and get loose, and I got loose real quick. And then you're watching to see if the pitcher gets the next guy out.
Mm-hmm.
You'd usually have a lefty and a righty up, and if the on deck guy was a lefty, then I might throw a few hard ones to make sure I was still loose. And if it was a righty, I was always just spinning my curveball. And so I would start flipping it in there, kind of as slow as I could so as not to take anything out of my arm. Because you might get up 3 or 4 or 5 times in a game. We had to save it as much as you could. Anyway, I kept throwing it, and then I'd throw it a little bit higher just because I'd throw it softer. So I had to throw it higher to get it to home plate. And the guys in the bullpen started watching, and they said, well, how high can you throw it? Well, and then they would see, was that a strike? They'd argue with each other.
Yeah.
Was a strike if it comes down through the strike zone, or does it have to go pass through it horizontally? So it just became kind of a thing. I worked on it for 3 or 4 years, quite a while, in the bullpen, and I got to where I could throw strikes really good. Then they started daring me to throw it in the game. You got to use that in the game. They won't know what to do, talk about the hitters. And so finally, that last game I did, like I said, I threw strikes and it worked. And then went to New York and I started doing it there. Actually in 81, when I first got there, and, had success. The players behind me, I would turn around and Bucky Dent and Nettles and Randolph, whoever was out there behind me, the infielders, they would have their glove over their face, laughing so hard. And then hitters would, hey, give me one more. They'd kind of be trying to whisper it and maybe stick up one finger, hiding it in their jersey, kind of, throw me that again, And then the press, the media, they had to know what pitch that was because the fans loved it. They said, "What do you call it? What's the name of that?" There was the Ephus pitch and Steve Hamilton's folly floater. You got to have a name for it. And I said, "Well, it's just my curve." I lob it up there, and Barry Foote was locker next to me, and then he put it together off the name LaRoche, and he said, "Oh, it's LaLob." And they had caught on, and that's what it's been. And then, it was successful, and everybody had so much fun with it and liked it that, not, like I said, I'm more known for that than, being in 2 All-Star games or, the whole career, the rest of the career.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's good to be known by something.
Well, and as George Brett used to say, when he got known for the pine tar game, at least I'm no longer known for having hemorrhoids, so it's good to be known for something that's positive.
I remember reading that. He was a character.
Yeah. Why is that pitch, or why was that pitch successful? I mean, you would think, we can all play slow pitch softball, even us guys that have no athletic ability. Why was that pitch so successful against major league hitters?
Just because of the lack of speed. They told me, the reporters one time said, "Oh, they got it on the radar gun at 34 miles an hour." But then also coming down, through the lights, you looked up and, it was much brighter looking up, and it may not go directly through the lights, but it's just something. One time I faced a guy the Tigers got up, and they picked him up, signed him out of a slow pitch softball league. And I threw it, and I saw him. He kind of shuffled if you've played slow pitch, you can kind of shuffle your feet and try to hit it the other way. And he did that, and he hit a line drive over second. He was a right-handed hitter, kind of did that little shuffle of his feet and just watched it and timed it and hit a nice line drive over second, into right center. And I said, okay, I will never throw him one again.
Yeah, exactly.
He's played slow pitch softball.
Now, I know they've got stats for everything, your batting average against with a 3-2 count on Thursdays. There's 1,300 or fewer people in the stands. But do you have any idea what how successful overall, did hitters hit 200 or something against that, or do you know?
No, I don't know, but I would say it was 200 or less. I'm guessing I might have gotten 30 or 40 or maybe more outs with it. And I don't think I gave up 5 hits, maybe 5 at the most. So 4 or 5 hits. So, I mean, I had a lot of success with it.
Yeah. Was Gorman Thomas the most fun one because it got so much attention, or he was a power hitter, or did you have other favorites that you struck out with it?
Well, there was a couple, but his was good because I threw it. Our manager, Bob Lemon, had just taken over, so he hadn't even seen me pitch yet. So he called me into the game, and Barry Foote was catching, and there was runners at second and third, and it was still a close game. It was somewhere in the middle of the game, and Gorman was up, and he said, "You want to walk Gorman and pitch to, I think, Cecil Cooper, or a left-hander." But Cecil, I had just as much, if not more, success with Gorman because he was a strikeout potential.
Right.
and there was 2 outs. So we just said, I said, well, we'll just throw him the curveball, all curveballs. And if I walk him, fine. Or,
Yeah.
And that was his weakness, was curveballs. Although I would say a little harder, not quite as big, but
yeah.
So I didn't see this, but the guys on the bench. So Lemon comes and we're in Yankee Stadium, and to see the outfielders stuff, you have to sit up like on the back of the bench, and then the roof of the dugout's just right above your head. And so he sat up on the back of the bench, and my first one, he just got in his seat as I was throwing my first one, and it went above what he could see on the, it went above the roof of the dugout.
Yeah.
And they said he's trying to follow it, and he almost fell. I mean, he stumbled down to the bottom of the dugout. Going, what in the heck was that?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I missed that. That had to be great. But the guys on the bench, then they started rolling, and they said, "Oh, that's his lob. That's his curveball or his lob." And then he finally got his seat back, got himself gathered together and watched it. So, that made it kind of special, even though I missed it. And then after I struck him out, he took his helmet off and flipped it up, and he thought he was, he took a swing at it to hit it back towards the dugout, and it exploded. He hit it right in the perfect spot, and it exploded into 20 or 30 pieces or whatever. And after the game, he autographed, the ear flap was the biggest piece left, and he autographed that and sent it over to me. And then to add to that, I faced him again sometime later. I don't know, later on in that season. I think it was like in September or something. I faced him again, so I walked up, real close to home plate, like to get a new ball. And I kind of said under my breath, "Warmer, I'll give you a chance to get even." So I went back out on the mound and threw him some more. And on about the 7th or 8th one, he had fouled off and swung and missed, and fouled off some more. And I think 1 or 2 were balls. Anyway, somewhere in the 8th or 9th, he finally got a little looper over third, and he ran to first and stuck his tongue out at me. Like, there you go. We're even now.
The baseball stories, I absolutely love it. Did it make your other pitches more successful, or was it so different that it didn't have any effect on your other pitches?
Well, it's hard to say, but I think the main thing was, I'm sure it made other pitches, like if I threw 2 or 3 in a row, had to make my fastball look a lot faster. But the main thing is the hitters would start smiling or cracking, especially if they swung and missed or fouled it off.
Yeah.
So it totally broke their concentration.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they were thinking, I hope he throws it to me again, or is he going to, I hope he doesn't throw it, or whatever, and not thinking about that.
Yeah, and
it's not a normal at bat.
As Yogi used to say, 90% of the game is half mental. So if you break that mental focus, it can certainly take them out of their at bat for sure.
Yeah. So in that regard, I think it helped also, or maybe mostly.
Yeah.
Took them out of their game plan.
Now, you spent many more years as a pitching coach than you did as a pitcher. The first question I want to ask you, and then we'll finally move on from that pitch, but did you ever teach any other players, any pitchers, how to throw that?
I shouldn't say all, but a lot of them wanted to see it and wanted to know how I threw it. And I would, if they started practicing it in the bullpen, I would kind of, hey, you're going to get me fired because if someone starts throwing that. Well, the bad part was, or the continuation, I coached for the Royals in Omaha for like 3 years. And Greinke came through there. I had Greinke, and he could change speeds on everything. He was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And he could command everything. I mean, he was a book in himself. And
Yeah.
we kind of hit it off, but we talked about that we talked about his changeup. He said his changeup was probably his worst pitch, and, changing speeds on that. And I said, well, that should be simple, because he could change speeds on his fastball. He could change speeds on his curveball, normal for that time, not real slow. He had never tried real slow curveball, and he had never worked on like changing speeds with his changeup. I said, you could take your fastball / changeup, because basically they all do the same thing, and he could run that anywhere from 50 miles an hour or whatever up to 98 or 9, whatever he threw when he was young. He could hit almost just on that. And then he really liked that thought, and then he kind of took my LaLob and mixed it with what he could do with the curveball. So he started changing speeds with that. And, when he went up, he was doing all that, and they made a big deal in Kansas City how he could, how many different speeds he could hit. Do you remember that when he hit every speed between, 60 and 100 except for 3 this game, stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen
One time they asked him about that curve, though, and he said, "Oh yeah, Dave helped me. LaRoche helped me in Omaha." That was my last year with the Royals.
I've seen him. I don't know if it was in 2020, but certainly as recently as 2019, throw a changeup 50 miles an hour, and it amazingly accurate that he could do that.
What he could do and how savvy he was, feel for the game when he was 18, 19 years old it just amazed me. You could, I met Maddox, who was Greinke's idol. Met him, but never really talked to him. But Greinke had to be at that time the closest thing to, having the feel for the game, the feel for the ball. He didn't have his feel for the game yet, knowing the hitters. So but just his feel for having the ball in his hand and what he could make it do was, way light years ahead of his age.
Was he the best pitcher from a pure talent standpoint that you ever coached?
Yes. I mean, I had Todd Stottlemyre and David Wells, who had great careers and were excellent pitchers, and were, knew the game and had a good feel, but Zach was just different. He saw things different.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably knew more about how to do things and saw things way different than I did. I mean, we had a lot of interesting discussions.
Yeah. So my fellow media members here in Kansas City could reiterate that statement. Yes, we had a lot of interesting discussions with Zach, but they weren't on the finer arts of pitching. They were on anything.
Anything. And you're absolutely right. And his the spring training before, I was in big league camp, and whenever his first, may have been 2 before that, he was in big league camp, and so I had one pitching group that had them to get loose, stretch together, and play catch, and got ready, and then mix into 2 groups. Different thing. Anyway, I was in one, and we had an odd number most days, and so Zach, being the young kid, and a lot of the big league guys saying, "What's he doing here?" Just because he was a number 1 draft pick, there was, kind of a little weird stuff. Nothing, I mean, it wasn't bad, but anyway, they all had their throwing partner, so I ended up playing catch with him every day. And so that led to a lot of conversations.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you the same question, but from a different perspective. Which of the pitchers that you've coached, who made the most improvement in the time that you were with them?
That's a great. Todd Stottlemyre was on a mission. You know, I mean, he knew what he wanted to do, and you know, so he was probably the most polished. You know, of course, his dad and his brother. So that's totally understandable. Great kid. I loved all three of them. David was he was a lefty, and he was a mischievous lefty. He was fun. We had a great time, but he was just raw talent. So he probably, I can't say he was still just a raw talent when he went to the big leagues. You know what? As much as Zach knew, I think he improved the most learning about professional baseball. You know, because AAA now he's starting to face a lot of guys that have played, you know, big league ball and stuff, and they're guest hitters, and they're, you know, and you start getting into some reports on guys because they've been around longer, and he learned that part of it, you know, and now he's facing guys 10 years, you know, 12, 15 years older than him. So it was, he improved mentally probably more.
Okay.
Physically, they were all good. They were, you know, Zach might have improved physically also only because he was fast track. So he was in AAA at 19 or whatever he was.
Yeah.
And the others were high picks and moved fast, but not that fast. So they had a little more minor league experience under their belts.
Yeah. We talked before we started recording this about your career as a pitching coach with many different organizations, and you talked about one of the last positions you had with the rehab guys, and you said there were some that got hit by a line drive, and so they were on the 10-day list, you know, just while they recovered from that. And there were a lot more guys who were there for a year and a half with Tommy John. Just retell that story, if you will, about the camaraderie that was built among those pitchers, especially the ones who were going through Tommy John.
Yeah, it was really an experience for me because they have like 6 months or something, 8 months before they can even pick up a ball. So they are every single day, and they kept them and put them up there in Jupiter. You know, they'd go home for a month at Christmas and New Year's time, and then they'd be right back down there every day at the ballpark, you know, 6 to 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the rehabbers got Sunday off. A lot of the minor leaguers don't, but anyway, so they can't even go out on the field. And this is, and a handful of them, they signed knowing this. So they didn't even have a minor league inning in, you know, a professional inning under their belts yet. And so a big part of my job was to, you know, keep them interested and, you know, keep their spirits up. But what I found out was over this time of, you know, going through it themselves, and the one, as they would get near the end, they would be rooting and cheering for the guys you know, that are way behind him on time frame. And when the group, they bonded through all of this. And there was usually 2 or 3 that were real close in their schedule, you know, at the same time. So, you know, they would be doing their work pretty much together. You know, everybody was on it. Basically, everybody was on a totally different schedule, except
Right.
2 or 3 might be real close. Their schedules were real close together, but then 2 on another schedule, 1 on another, But anyway, they bonded. I was telling you, their first bullpen, all the guys be watching, their first live BP,
Right.
the whole group would come out, their first inter-squad game, and then their first real game there in the Gulf Coast League games. The whole group would be out there watching and cheering, and then they'd all be grabbing him and hugging him and patting him on the back as they would clear another hurdle. It would bring a tear to my eye to see some of these guys, because that was a big jump for them, especially to get in their first real game. That was like, everybody was rooting for that. And even the teams, the Gulf Coast League, they knew the guys because they had been there so long. And, they were rooting for them, and they would feel terrible if the guy had a good inning going and they made an error or something, and, the inning prolonged and maybe he had to be taken out because they're going to be on a pitch count.
Yeah.
The 20 pitches or whatever. And if something happens, they can't go 21 yet.
Right. All right, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm going to put you on the spot. I didn't prepare you for this question. You basically were in professional baseball in one aspect or another for about 50 years. Pick one highlight. 10 years from now, you're retired. You look back and somebody says, "Tell me about your baseball career," and the elevator door is going to open up in 2 more floors. What's your highlight?
Well, I mean, that is a tough question, because actually the whole career, I loved every minute of it. But to answer your question, there's no doubt I would have to say having the chance to play for the Yankees and play in a World Series against the Dodgers, the team that I grew up loving. I grew up in Southern California, so I was a Dodger fan. But I love the Yankees too, and then getting to put those pinstripes on in a World Series against the Dodgers was amazing. I mean, putting the pinstripes on the first time in Yankee Stadium I was kind of in awe. And so, and it was at the end of my first season, we made it to the World Series. So the World Series was the highlight of being in a Yankee uniform.
Okay. Transition a little bit, and we're almost done. So tell Patty you're going to be able to go to lunch here soon. Just talk about your boys. I've heard them say that when they were growing up, they could have been better pitchers than you were, but you didn't want them to be pitchers. Why was that true? Why is that true? And then just talk about their careers for a few minutes.
Well, they were good. Andy never really pitched much, and I discouraged it because he had a whole different arm action. He had a great arm, a strong arm, and he did some closing, in high school and college a little bit, but I knew if he pitched a lot, it would not be good on his arm.
Okay.
But the Braves were the only team that really wanted to give him a chance to hit. But everybody said they thought he would be drafted in the first or second round as a pitcher. And, he went in the 16th round or 12th round or whatever as a hitter. But they were the only ones that were sincere about saying, no, we like him as a hitter and we're fine. We will, give him every opportunity to hit. And then, if he doesn't, if he hits a wall somewhere, we would like him to try pitching. And Adam was fine with that. That was his whole thing. Yeah, if I find out I can't hit good enough to play Major League Baseball, then I'll see what I can do pitching. And so that's kind of how they did it. And when he first signed, their roving pitching instructor, every time he would come to town, he would want Adam to go throw in the bullpen. And, he'd say, well, no, I love you as a hitter. You're doing, because he had done pretty well, was doing pretty well. And so I said, no, I love that. But everything I read was that you were a better pitcher than you are as a hitter. And if you're this good a hitter, I just want to, and so Adam would just lead him on and like, I never pitched. What are you talking about pitching? I don't pitch, And so the first time I came to town, he happened to be there and he came running over. Now, I don't want you to think we don't like Adam as a hitter. I just wanted to see him, he kind of reiterated that story to me. We love him as a hitter, but he's supposed to be, I just wanted to see him because he was sure, because that he had kept asking Adam to go to the pen. And so that was kind of funny about that part of it. But no, they could both hit. And, I'm glad that Adam got to do what his first love was, and that was hitting. And so Jeff was the pitcher, the oldest.
Right.
And he had a funky arm delivery too. And so he played minor league ball, counting independently, for about 8 years or something. But his command was, he was left-handed. His command was his downfall.
Okay. All right. It's funny. I know Adam better than I don't even know if I've met Jeff. I've met Andy, but I know Adam more. And it was so fun to interview him when he'd come to town to play the Royals, because we knew each other. But when we'd be standing there, he'd be at his locker and I'd have my microphone and I'd ask him a question, and he very respectful. He would just treat me like another member of the media. And so nobody else in the media knew that we knew each other. We'd get all through, and then he would do something. He would throw something at me, or he would say something and wink. And it was so much fun to interview him because there was it was like passing a note in school or something. We were getting away with something because, we were friends, and that was fun. So next cool. time you talk to him, tell him I said hello.
Oh, they're coming here.
Okay, great.
So that'll be great. It'll be perfect. He and Jeff and their families are coming.
All right. I know you're retired now from baseball. So what keeps you busy?
Well, when you have a wife, that'll keep you busy enough, running honeydews and errands and all. That's what we did all morning from about 8:30 till just before noon. All of a sudden I looked at my phone and I had my alerts on there, and I'm going, oh shoot. So I'm rushing to try to get this Zoom call set up. But I play, when we're down here, I play a lot of tennis. And when we're back home, I like to fish, and we play pickleball in Fort Scott. And then, seeing the family and we didn't get to this year with COVID, but trying to make it around and see the kids.
Yeah.
Because they're getting spread out. Adam's still in Fort Scott, but Andy got married and they just had a baby girl 5 months ago. And they live in Sarasota, and Jeff is running Adam's restaurant. He has 2 restaurants, E3 Chop Houses, one in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and one in Nashville. So he goes back and forth between those, trying to keep those running and going okay.
And I've got to ask you, when you're playing tennis, is your specialty the person charges the net and you lob it over their head?
Usually it's my wife playing the net against me, and she's really good at the net. And so I try to hit it by her.
Okay.
Sometimes I hit it pretty hard, but yeah, I'm not as good with the tennis ball lobbing it over their heads.
All right. Sounds good. Well, my friend, we've known each other almost 50 years, I think, and it's always good to catch up with you. And I always, you guys, say hi to the family. And thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Dave. And please tell your mom hello, too.
I will do that.
For both of us.
Thanks for listening to Sports Connections with David Smale. Make sure to subscribe, follow, and rate the show from your favorite podcast platform. You can learn more about David Smale and his work by visiting davidsmalebooks.com. Don't forget to join us weekly for new episodes. Until next time.